I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of masters, and the compassion and mercy of grand predecessors, senior transmitters, lecturers, temple masters, everyone for giving me this opportunity today to talk about today's topic, which is chapter 56 of the Tao Te Ching. Okay, you guys can all see the screen, right? Okay. Okay, so let's. Okay, so this is moderate length chapter. It has connections to several different previous, at least two different previous chapters, or other chapters. It has connections to. It's basically building up on it. Okay, so it's called the Tao Honored, or you can say the Tao Value. That's the first title, or heading of the chapter. There's an alternative heading, which is genuine or true practice of the Tao, obviously. Okay, and it's divided into 3 sections, 16 phrases. So this is basically setting the thesis or for this chapter. Then comes his analysis. Well, it's sort of like analysis, and then the conclusion. Okay, the last, I think it's like 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay, 7. Yeah, 7. Yeah. Okay, 7 phrases. Okay. All right. Shouldn't take too long. Hopefully, I can finish this in 90 minutes or less. Okay. All right. Let's go to the outline. Okay. The first phrase or line, the first line, it's those who know do not talk, and those who talk do not know. So this is it has many layers of meaning, but so I'm gonna deal with the most basic, which is the kind of the obvious, superficial, and then it goes to a higher level, which is basically it's talking about the intangible Tao, or the Tao essence, the metaphysics, the metaphysical Tao. Okay, I mean, Tao could mean many things, right? I mean, it could, depending on how broad you want to apply it, or how narrow. Okay, because the Tao also includes, you can say, the universe, the cosmos, but so that's the tangible part, right? Then there's also the intangible or formless part, and that's what really the higher level meaning of this line is about. I don't want to get too deep into it. It gets very abstract. It's metaphysics, but so I'll just introduce a little bit when we get there. All right, let's talk about the basic level meaning. Okay, it's those who know have wisdom and real expertise. Okay, that's pretty basic, superficial. So they do not talk that much. Okay, so conversely, there are many who talk a lot but cannot deliver. Okay, so that's the second phrase, okay, of this line. Another meaning is similar to the common expression, doers don't talk, talkers don't do, right? I mean, that's pretty basic. Here's a sign, some signs of talkers to watch out for, okay? So, so those who claim to be highly accomplished or intelligent, okay, that's people claim that, right? There are some people who claim that, right? They achieved a lot, or they accomplished great things, or they're very intelligent. So those who are really accomplished or intelligent will have no need to talk about their accomplishments or intelligence, because many other people would be already saying the same. So they would have no need to talk about themselves. There's nothing they need to say, because other people will be talking for them. So that's one thing to remind yourself, or to be mindful of, right? So if you hear some people who claim to accomplish a lot, or even to boast, or to be intelligent. That's, you can tell that's a sign that those who talk do not know. Okay. All right. Okay. Because other people would be doing the talking for them, right? Okay. So someone who expounds on many theories just to show off knowledge, but does not know does not know which theory is relevant or useful, right? Okay. So you have people. I don't want to say this is the book nerd type, but or people, in academia or whatever, in the ivory towers, they know a lot. I mean, they do. I mean, they're intelligent. That's fine. They know a lot of theories, so they can, show off and, talk about them. But the problem is they're so into them, to this knowledge for knowledge's sake, that they don't know how to apply them. That's the problem. Okay. So, they don't know which theory is, actually correct or even relevant or useful. Okay. They just know about theories. Okay. So, they're those types, right? Okay. You probably see most of these people in academia. Okay. Or, stuff like that. Okay. All right. Someone who issues dire warnings also to show off. Like, they know what's going to happen, right? Okay. So there are times when we need to be warned about certain things, dangers or things. That's true, right? That's true. But there are those who constantly issue warnings without understanding whether they are helpful or true. So, you have these, what do you call that? The sky's falling people, repent, the end of the world is near, whatever, those type of people. So that's the other extreme. Okay. All right. So these are all pretty extremes, but anyway, all right. Or someone who points out problems in order to project a helpful image, but it's actually a concern troll attempting to distract. Yeah, there's such, I guess, concern troll, people who, I don't want to say are nosy, but, people who always need to uh, be involved, or, I don't want to say being nosy, but, always have to, interject themselves, okay, to kind of project an image that they are being helpful, because they're so knowledgeable, or they're so capable, they have good abilities. All right. But actually, it's a distraction. Okay. So anyway, all right. Or someone who talks about many plans but don't do anything to implement them. Once again, talkers, not doers. People who have, you have a lot of plans, you want to do this, but never do anything about it, So, all right, okay. Eh, or someone who complains endlessly about everything. Yeah, so we got to be careful about that too, right? Always complaining or blaming, complaining, always, everybody, blaming heaven, earth, people, but themselves. Okay, all right. So these are all different, some pretty extreme examples of talkers. Okay, talkers who really don't know, don't know any. I would say don't know anything, but they're just basically talkers who are not doers. Okay, all right. So further understanding is, in real life, the actual experts, those who know, tend to talk less. And when they do speak, they choose the appropriate moment for maximum effectiveness. All right. Okay, let's go to a story of the frogs in the pond and the rooster. That story came from philosopher Mozi. Okay. Mozi is roughly the contemporary. He came after Lao Tzu and Confucius. He's roughly the contemporary of Mencius, which is roughly 100 years or so after Lao Tzu and Confucius. 100, 150, yeah, roughly. Okay. All right. So the story goes, it's pretty short. The story goes something like this. Okay, there was a student, Mozart's a well-known philosopher. As a matter of fact, he was um he's his school of philosophy. It's called, okay, so Mozi is this, okay, circa 470 to 391 BCE. He was an ancient philosopher during the Warring States period, okay, which is roughly the time of Confucius and a little bit after Lao Tzu, okay, all right, roughly, okay. Now, so he's a well-known philosopher in the sense that he was the founder of this called Mo or Mohi's school of philosophy, roughly 2,400 years ago. Okay, now some of its main teachings of his philosophy were about equality, between genders and between not just genders, but between social classes, from the king or the emperor all the way down to the lowly peasant or whoever. Okay, so he was very, you can say, ahead of his time, ahead of his time. Meritocracy, believe that, uh, society should value, or at least in government, at least in the social circles or in government, um, you know, meritocracy should play a role or should be the standard, more or less. Okay, and he talked about, also, preached or taught about universal love. Now, all of this is all external, and I'm gonna say unfortunate. That's the big difference between him and, to some respects, Confucius and Lao Tzu. He's mainly more like political social philosophy. Okay, I mean he talked about, life too, how to live one's life, but his concentration or focus of his main teachings is mostly about the external, the society, governance, stuff like that. He doesn't get into metaphysics that much. I mean, he might touch a little bit, but not like to the degree or level of Confucius or Lao Tzu. So that's the big difference. Now, but we're not, we're talking about basic level of that first phrase, right? Those who know do not talk, and those who talk do not know. So the metaphors of the story, in the metaphors of the story, let me tell you the story. Okay. So, Mozi being a, fairly, as a matter of fact, he's one of the, what they call the 100 schools period. Okay. They're not 100, but they're like 10 major schools of thought during that period, late warring period states, and his is one of them. So that's pretty well known. Okay. So the story goes like this. He had many students. So one of the students who was studying the Tao, because Mozi also study or talk about some of Lao Tzu's the Tao philosophy. But anyway, so so the student was kind of confused because he was wondering, if I'm really intelligent, or if I really know my stuff, I shouldn't talk. And if I talk, I probably I don't know anything. So he's wondering, he's confused, but he's saying, well, if you know things, don't you need to talk to let people know, and stuff like that you shouldn't stay silent. So so he's conflicted between, it seems like one extreme or the other, right? You either don't say anything, or you either you talk too much, okay, and you don't know anything. So he asked, his master Mozi, about his confusion, and so Mozi said, Mozi's not as, he's a pretty bright guy too, okay, right? So he says, oh, okay, for your case, let me tell you a story, okay, to illustrate, and maybe you can, it can, it can provide you more insight. Okay, so he said, imagine, there's a pond full of frogs, and the frogs are croaking, right? They're croaking, they croak, right? They croak. That's what frogs do, right? They croak, morning in, during the day, and then at night, throughout the night. Now they're croaking all the time, day in and day out. Now, for the people, or the people living nearby, they hear the croaking of the frogs in the pond, but they don't pay attention to them, right? They don't mind, because they know that's what frogs do, right? That's what they do. They croak. Okay, anyway. All right. So people ignore them. They kind of like, they know the frogs are croaking. There's a sound, there's noise, but they disregard them. They don't really pay attention to them. Okay. So now imagine you're also on a farm and you raise chickens or roosters. And so just as dawn is breaking, all right, the rooster, gets up and crows, very loudly, once, maybe twice, a couple times, but during that time, just during the day, maybe, once a day or twice a day, in the morning, when the sun rises, the rooster will get up and crow very loudly. And then all the farmers, or the people, in our farm, will wake up. And also, I guess, chickens too, hens, chickens, other animals, they get up. So when they hear the rooster crow, it's meaningful or impactful to people and to other animals, because they know that, oh, the rooster is crowing because the day, the daylight has begun, or twilight, or whatever, the morning has broken. Okay, so then people pay attention, even though the rooster just crowed once, right, in a day. So that's the story. So the key, so the whole point Mozart was pointing out to his student was that, there are, okay, the frogs, people, let's say they're people who constantly talk day in, day out, whatever, morning in, night out, whatever. But they're not saying anything impactful or meaningful. So people can ignore them, or, disregard them. Whereas a crow, like say someone who's, very knowledgeable, or, expert, when they speak once, people listen. Okay, so the key, so what okay, let's go to this third bullet point, or fourth bullet point, is that one teaching point is that Mozart is not saying, oh, you should stay silent if you know, even if you are very, an expert, or a lot, you should not stay silent. Okay, so that's the basic level. Okay, now also, like Lao Tzu was saying, I mean, at the basic level, he was pointing out to speaking appropriately at the proper moment, and also effectively with maximum effect. Okay, like a rooster. All right. So with these 2 points, the conclusion is that there is a season for everything. Okay, there's a time to speak up and a time to quiet down. Now, the key to the story is knowing one from the other. That is, knowing when to speak and when not to speak, is part of the art of living the Tao. Get it? Okay. Now, we could go deeper in that. It's the same. Now, okay, just as I don't want to take up too much time. Sorry. Is how do you know one from the other. That is when to speak and when not to speak, right? So to that we say, okay, yeah, that's got, you can say maybe knowledge, intelligence, or wisdom even, okay, wisdom. But from the Tao Te Ching's perspective or from the Lao Tzu's point of view, it's called clarity. You are clear. You can see everything or know everything clearly. So then, therefore, you can choose or you'll know when is the appropriate moment to speak or when not to speak. That's to clarity. And we talked about that from last chapter, right? Then we talk about to what's that? To know constancy is clarity, right? It's called clarity or is said to be clarity. And then how do you know constancy? Well, you have to know harmony, right? Harmony. That's in phrases 11 and 12 of chapter 55, talked about last week. Okay. And then how do you know harmony, right? To know harmony is to what? Know um, I don't want to use the word stillness, but let's see, what's the good word? It's to know, it's in chapter 37, going way back, it's to know, that's still chapter 16, sorry, chapter 16. It's to know tranquility. That's the better term. Yeah, stillness, tranquility. It's to know tranquility. And to know tranquility, I mean, if you really want to push it back, to know tranquility is to know your nature or your root. Okay, and well, to know tranquility, you have to have no desires, and to have no desires is to go back to your root. Okay, so it goes all the way back. In other words, it goes all the way back to your Buddha nature. Okay, that's what it is. So that's because that's the true natural state, right? Your true natural state, and everything emanates from there, goes forward from there. Okay, that's the key. All right. Okay, so I don't want to go too deep in that, but that's something that you guys can think about. But it's all based on previous chapters. Okay. Okay. So now on this topic, Confucius also expressed, following a few thoughts. Okay. So it's from the Analects. Okay. So he said, if you should say something but do not, you have wronged the person. So okay, that means there are times when you should speak up, right? But if you don't, then you've wronged that person, right? Like, if you're either in your family or with good close friends, if you see something that's wrong or that's inappropriate, you know, from either your family members or from close friends or loved ones, etc., you should say something, right? Okay, because if you don't, then that's also being harmful to that person, right? Okay, so all right, so it's like it's etiquette, it's propriety, etiquette. You can say even righteousness. Okay, covers that. Then the second part is if you should not say something but say it, then you have spoken wrongly. So the flip side is when you shouldn't say anything, and when you shouldn't say anything, but yet you said it, so then that's also wrong. So these are the two, right? The two, you can say, guardrails, the two extreme sides. Okay. So what Lao, so in this case, he's Confucius saying, well, then this is the time. There are times when you shouldn't be talking or you shouldn't say anything, right? Whereas the first one is there are times when you should say something, but if you didn't, then that's also wrong. And then the second one is, there are times when you should not say anything, but you did, then that's also wrong, right? Obviously. Okay, so then the conclusion he's saying is that the wise person refrains. I mean, it depends on the translation. This is partly James Legge and hybrid, but anyway. So the wise person refrains from error in actions as well as words. So once again, it comes to the wise person. Refrains. That means they are removed from, or they what's another word? They avoid. You can say avoid. Okay, being in error. Okay, in actions as well as words. So once again, it boils down to, we say, this wise person or the person who knows. So the key is, when do you know, or how do you know? Okay, right? So okay, all right. Let's spend too much time. Let's go to, well, we're still in section 1. All right. Okay. All right. So there's a deeper meaning now. Okay. So that's the basic stuff. Okay. Now, so we talk about the deeper. Deeper is those who not only know the Tao, who know, who understands the Tao, okay, but also at one with the Tao, meaning they're congruent, okay, with the Tao internally, that's in their mind, and also externally in their words and actions. That's what the deeper meaning of this, okay, of 智者, ones who know, those who know. And and from there you could go on to the metaphysical stuff, which we will get to towards the end in section 3. All right, okay, which I don't want to get into now, but okay, all right, okay. So the deeper understanding of the line is this: the essence of the Tao. Now this is following up on the deeper meaning of those who know. Is the essence of Tao is indescribable and thus cannot be spoken. Remember, chapter 1, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, right? First line, chapter 1. That's similar to the introductory phrase of every sutra, okay, of Buddha. Thus have I heard, where Buddha taught the unsurpassed supreme Dharma by his actions and not with words, right? You know, uh, hopefully those of you are familiar with Thus have I heard. Once upon a okay, it's the first 2 paragraphs of Thus have I heard. Thus have I heard. Okay, during the mealtime, the Tathagata, put on his robe, took his bow, and entered, the town, the a city, to what? Beg for his food. After he begged his food, he returned. He sat down, finished his meal, put away his robe and bow, washed his feet, and sat down, arranged the seat and sat down. So he didn't speak a whole word. But if you really understand that, or those 2 paragraphs, okay, then that's his teaching. he didn't speak a word. Okay, and I'll get to a little bit later, but anyway, but that's an example. Okay, I don't want to go into that because that's a separate topic, a whole separate topic. Okay, thus have I heard. Okay, all right. So higher understanding is, on the other hand, if the Tao is spoken, then it is no longer the authentically perfect, genuinely penetrating, and truly permanent Tao. Why? Because words can only describe a partial aspect of the Tao. Words are imperfect, they're incomplete, they are lacking, limited, narrow, rigid, subject to interpretation, change, and inconstant. So words fall into the realm of forms, right? So all that are spoken are dualistic, but the Tao is absolute. It's non-conditioned and non-dualistic. So those who know the Tao do not wish to speak about Tao because it will be imperfect. Hence, they do not speak about. So that's the higher level meaning of this first phrase: those who know do not talk, and those who talk do not know. All right. So that's the higher level. Okay. Beyond that superficial level of, there are moments when you should speak up, and there are times when you should not. Right. Okay. So the different layers of meaning. All right. Okay. So the implication at the basic level is, Lao Tzu is not saying that one should not talk, but he's not advocating for complete silence. What he's saying is that there are times when one should speak up and there are times when one should not. Okay, so summary 1. Oof, let's see, summary. Part 1. Okay. Okay. Oh, shoot. All right. So basically, how do we live in the Tao? Okay. So how do you live in the Tao? Okay. So there are 3 parts to it. Okay. So the first part is those who know do not talk. So that requires self-discipline and wisdom. So the freedom of the Tao is not a license to do whatever the whims dictate. We have to use self-discipline to regulate yourself. Okay, people often misinterpret or misunderstand, go with the flow, flow like the river, stuff like that, like the water, you could go anywhere, blah, blah. Okay, actually, that's not that's not the I mean, that's partial, but that's not the complete meaning. Okay, understanding. All right, you can go with the flow as long as there's a caveat. Okay, that's why there are conditions, unfortunately. Okay, that as long as you know what is the proper way, proper path, then you can go with the flow. But if you don't know what the proper way, proper path is, going for the flow is like a tumbleweed. The wind will carry you, blow you wherever the wind blows. Okay, so that's not correct. All right. So the greatest cultivators of Tao impose discipline upon themselves. You know that? All right. Okay. All the great throughout history. Okay, that's without exception. And one who has wisdom knows that one does not to speak all the time. So so that takes some effort. Okay. Then there's number two. Second point is the natural quietness. So the more you understand, the less you feel the need to tell everyone what you know. Okay. So this is more a little bit. I mean, it's getting okay. It covers both on the superficial level and the high and the advanced level. Okay, or the metaphysical level. Okay, it is more important to carry out the actions than to talk. So this deals more with how one conduct himself or how you cultivate. So less words, less noise, more meaning, more impact, less talking, more doing. Right. Okay, then you observe others. Especially those who speak. Okay, so those who speak are not wise. Those who talk do not possess wisdom. Okay, remember the previous points in section one we talk about those are extreme examples, right, of those people who need to talk, right? Okay, oftentimes, they, they don't know anything, okay, or they are very insecure or whatever. So this gives you insight into human nature. Those who cannot quiet down certainly have deeper issues. All right. So, okay. So let's go up to, middle of page 2. Okay. Let's go to top of page 2. All right. Okay. Where's that section? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So on the advanced level is once in the phenomenal realm, words are dualistic. We should realize that, right? So those who know the Tao, now we're talking about really talking about the Tao, okay? The essence piece, okay? Not the manifestation piece, okay? Right? There's the function aspect, okay? But the essence aspect, or the essence half. So those who know the Tao have no way to speak about it, because once the Tao is spoken, it's no longer perfect. Because what we're talking about is the essence here, not the manifestations. I mean, manifestations you can talk forever, right? And it's still incomplete. But we're talking about the essence here. Okay, so the key point is the Tao essence, all right, cannot be spoken because it is authentically perfect, genuine, permanent, penetrating, and truly permanent. Where perfect means all-encompassing, complete, consummate, lacking nothing. Penetrating means all-pervasive, everywhere, universal. Permanent means always changeless, constant, eternal. So the intangible or metaphysical Tao essence is too transcending. So those who know the Tao, that is, being at one, they're one with the Tao or congruent to the Tao, are unable to speak about it. It is not that those who do not speak do not know anything of Tao, but rather what they speak of Tao is no longer perfect. This is because the Tao is non-dualistic, or you can say absolute, or the state of the Buddha nature or Tao essence is inconceivable or unimaginable, unthinkable. So this kind of state, is called the metaphysical Tao. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Now we go to section 2. Okay. So this is a repeat of, anybody remember what chapter? We just talked about it recently, like 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. Okay, it's it's chapter 52. Okay, all right, section 2. Okay, all right. So close the mouth, shut the doors. That's okay. So I don't want to go too much into this because in chapter 52 we covered most of it. So sages recognize the mouth as a major source of trouble in life. You know, inbound, it's what? It's we eat too much. We overindulge. We eat, or eat meat and non-vegetarian food. We, eat animals, etc. And the outbound, coming out from the mouth, we complain, we criticize, we gossip, we lie, we, rumor monger, etc., etc. You know, so okay, so basically that's okay. This line's the same as those in section 2 of chapter. Okay, so this is a metaphor to be careful for one's. Okay, I don't want to go, because we in chapter 52 we already covered this. All right, so for this reason, the sage say that it's better to talk less or close the mouth and say nothing. Okay, it may not be possible to always remain silent, but at a minimum, choose carefully what you say, right? Okay, the mouth can be the source of misfortune. All right, it can, it can cause disasters if we don't, even if we don't mean it or our intentions are good. So what we say can cause the opposite of what we intend. So that's why when it comes to talking, a lot of times less is more. Okay, and sometimes we just have to be careful. Okay, be careful. So also another understanding is by speaking less, more virtues can be stored. All right. Okay. The second phrase, shut the doors, is to basically, it's a metaphor for shutting the eyes and ears, metaphor for blocking out distraction, temptation. Remember the, is it the four? I mean, some, I think in Eastern tradition, they use the 4 monkeys, right? To symbolize, right? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, do no evil, right? Okay. I mean, do no evil is not applicable here and shut the doors, but the first 3. Okay. All right. Another meaning is of the doors, mean they're the portals of temptations with respect to the eyes, distracting sights, the ears, pleasing words, etc., etc. All right. Okay. So the shut the door is to close off the possibility of temptation of the eyes and ears. So it is an exercise of discipline to observe the precepts. Now, we've also talked about this before, right? This is similar to the teaching by Confucius in the Analects. It's called the 四物, right? That's the 4. I mean, it literally means 4 taboos, but it just means it's all this, right? It's this. It's right. Do not look at what is improper. Actually, improper does not mean contrary to propriety. It really means contrary to our Buddha nature. Okay, essence. All right. So basically, that's what it is. We already covered this in chapter 52. This is also similar to the Noble Eightfold Paths, number 3 and number 4. Okay. All right. The deeper meaning of the doors is the portals, right? That's our 6 roots. I mean, besides the portal, yeah, we call it 6 portals. Okay. So deeper understanding, to close the mouth is to cut off the 4 vices of speech, right? That's in Buddhism, which are part of the 10 evils of the mind, mouth, and body. It's also known as the 3 conditions or inheritances. Okay, so be careful because all the virtues that will be depleted, most of them come from opening the mouth. All right. Okay. So higher understanding, to shut the doors is to close down the 6 roots, the 6 sense organs. The 6 roots are the source of our delusional thoughts and give rise to 6 desires, which lead to the planting of karmic seeds and eventual suffering. All right. So implication is, as long as we can subdue the 4 vices of speech and the 6 roots, it is possible not to have any sensations. To say we will not have cravings or attachments to material forms, which in turn will lead to a life of ease without strife, suffering, or toil. Okay, the key point is it is because of our aroused mind and stirred thoughts, which led to a delusional thought and rash action, that caused us to come down or be born in this material world, where we will live a life of strife and toil. When this happens, it means that our lives are not natural. what we have done is not natural. So by taming our 6 roots and desires, we can be natural, be our true selves in everything we do. This way we will naturally, that is non-conditioned or without attachments, attain good results. All right. This is the second half of the of section 2. Okay. And we already, okay, it says blunt the sharpness, unravel the knots, dim the glare, mix the dust. This is called mystic oneness. Okay, so the mystic oneness is a new term in this classic so far. It's the complement to mystic virtue. We already talked about mystic virtue, didn't we? We talked about mystic virtue, right? Chapter 52. Is it 52? Yeah, hold on. It's chapter 51. Sorry, chapter 10, chapter 51. All right. We already talked about it. Chapter 10, chapter 10, 15. That's so mystic oneness is the complement to that, because mystic virtue implies the applications or the functions of the Tao, whereas the mystic oneness is about the essence of the Tao. Okay. All right. So I don't want to go too much on top because this, by the way, these how many, these four these 4 phrases are found way back. I don't know if you guys remember which chapter, but it's way back. Okay, so it's chapter 4. Okay, anyway, all right. Okay, so internally, the sharpness, now we're talking about the first phrase, which is blunt the sharpness. It means the sharpness refers to our arrogance or hubris and our strong will or ego. Okay. Externally, it's like in nature. All things, all objects, hard objects, especially hard, does not be sharp, even sharp objects too, will over time get eroded, right? So they'll lose their sharpness. Okay, all right. So and I don't want to go too much detail because we already talked about this in chapter 4. So I don't want to. Okay. So another meaning is internally is we need to work on the rough edges of arrogance and excessive pride within, and externally smooth out our character so as to have the pleasing qualities of physical objects to avoid contention and dispute. That's no harsh words, no attempts to embarrass, etc. All right. We should this is in the social realm, is to smooth out the sharp edges in our interactions with others, just as in nature, right? Sharp edges will sooner or later be blunted. We have to be more harmonious in our interactions. That's another meaning. Okay, harmonious, right? We have to be harmonious. That's, if you know harmony, you know constancy. If you know constancy, you know clarity. If you know clarity, you know when to talk and when not to talk. All right. So, all right. Okay. So, so we should apply our Buddha nature to lower our strong will and sharp edges and arrogance, as well as our delusional thoughts. This is important because our delusional thoughts are very keen and strong and will arise when we're not mindful or when we're not vigilant. So similar to not let any thoughts arise. Okay, so we must constantly practice to subdue our sharp areas, such as our arrogance and rage. Okay, now the second phrase is to unravel the knots. Okay, so once again, it's a metaphor. To unravel the knots is to reduce or resolve complexity, just as knots in a rope, will time will lose. Okay, just on it. All right, just basic, or to resolve problems and issues. So specific level, okay, to resolve the contention. Number is to resolve contention. That's 1. 2 is to reduce complexity in every aspect of life. We should simplify and streamline matters. Okay, there's the story of the potted orchard. Okay, now, okay, once upon a time in ancient China, there was a Tao sage, living with his monks in a remote, isolated monastery in the mountains. Okay, now this sage was very wise, and he, besides teaching his students, etc., conducting classes, he also spent a lot of time nurturing or growing this orchid, okay, in a vase, okay. Orchids, orchids are, some orchids are delicate, some are not so delicate, but this one, he lovingly, waters it every day, make sure it has enough sunlight, etc., so that it can continue to grow, develop, and bloom, those beautiful, beautiful orchid flowers. But anyway, so one day he had to take care of some business. He has to be away for a few hours. Okay, so he assigned two of his youngest disciples to watch for it, at least for the day that he's going to be away, because he couldn't, he's not there to take care of it, to water it, or etc. Okay, so he left and he assigned it to two young disciples, and two young disciples are very I won't say undisciplined, they're novices, okay, and so they often tend to like I say, get into arguments with each other, etc., compete, etc. So while the master was away, you know, they they try to carry out the sage's assignment to them, right? Which is to to care for the orchid. So one tried to move it to where there's more sun. The other one tried to water it, give it some more water or whatever. And as they're juggling, jousting against each other, competing against one another, one of them pushed the other too hard, the other disciple, and then the other disciple lost his balance and uh, what do you call that? Caused the vase to drop to the floor, okay, and shatter, okay, and the plant, has no loses soil, so it's okay, it's roots explode. So not long afterwards, and so they started arguing, pointing fingers, saying, hey, it's your fault, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Anyway, okay, so not long afterwards, as they were still arguing, blaming each other, the sage returned, and then he saw, that that the orchid plant had had fallen out, out of the broken vase. So he quickly, you know you know grab a broom and try to sweep up the soil to keep the roots of the orchid, still, inside the soil, and to keep it alive. And his two, young disciples who were still arguing, you know, stopped and were shocked and surprised that the sage didn't admonish them or discipline them for 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 messing up their assignment, for that. And so they were surprised. Okay, so they asked, master, why aren't you blaming us and punishing us for what we did? We obviously and the sage calmly replied, my purpose in cultivating or nurturing this orchid plant is so that it, not purpose, right? He said, my purpose is so that I will remain tranquil and calm in spite of everything going around. Okay, no matter how bad the external environment is, situations are. My purpose in cultivating, planting this orchid is to help me stay calm, stay tranquil, okay, be in that state of tranquil quiescence, etc. So why should I let any situation disrupt that, or uh, destroy my purpose? Okay, so let's go to so the key is you have to remember your purpose. That's one of the keys to unraveling knots, okay, or reducing complexity. Okay, so let's go to Appendix B. Okay, Let's see, where is it? All right. Okay, the potted orchard. Okay, orchid, sorry, orchid. So the key is just like the sage, as the sage told his young disciples, always be mindful of your original purpose in our interactions and dealings with other people. The knots represent complexity in our lives and contention among people. So the more complicated things become, the more annoyed and confused we tend to be, right? That's natural, right? More agitated we become. So in order to reduce that complexity, that annoyance, etc., one, we have to attain calmness. Okay, so lower the temperature. Okay, so externally it means get everybody on common ground. Bring everyone to an area of agreement. Right? That's like say you're in your work environment or even in a family, etc. Right? We should lower the temperature by getting everybody to agree on something, right? To an area agreement. Now, internally is to center your mind, to pause your thoughts, take a deep breath, take a mental step back to review the situation from a detached perspective. So, you have to ponder, contemplate moment before you say or act, right? Anything, okay. And then reflect on the key questions, okay, when you are taking the mental step back. A, what are the Tao principles that apply here? What can I use from the things I have been studying? Okay, apply what we've learned. B, what is the original purpose in doing this? Why are we getting distracted by all these other considerations? So the key is, if you remember, mindful of what your original purpose is, then it's easier to reduce complexity. All right, okay, or resolve confusion, contention, etc. So by reminding yourself and hanging on to the original purpose will help you unravel the knots. That's why in the I think it's in the 4 courses of cultivation, 什么四课 right 四课 something. Anyway, okay. I think one of them is well. Part of that is part of the, I forgot which number, but anyway, is we should have established an aspiration, a goal. Okay, that's it's not a vow, but it's like it's more generic than a vow. Vow is more specific, but it's to establish an aspiration. And so the key is you have to be mindful of that aspiration. All right. Okay. So then if you always remember that, then it's easier to not be distracted and by the confusion, etc., or the turmoil. Okay. And keep things simple. All right. Okay. So let's go to see. Page 4, I believe. Yeah, page 4, top of page 4. Okay. No, page 4. Okay. Here we go. All right. Okay. So the additional meaning of second phrase is we should try to resolve disputes or conflicts as well as reducing complexity in our daily lives. That is, with minimalism, there's more room, more time, more freedom, and reduced clutter. Further is to let go of conflicts and clutter and harmonize our relationships and simplify our lives, just as all complexities unravel in the course of time and all disputes settle one way or another. That's similar to letting go of our karmic affinities. Okay. So then the third phrase is to what? Dim the glare. Okay. Okay. So I don't want to go too much detail, but in this case, the glare just means that it's our ego. Okay, it's our ego that's manifesting. You can say arrogance too. Okay, or strong will. Okay, sorry. Okay, so just as anything that any source of brightness must dim. We just like a star will eventually burn out and become dark. Our ego-driven people tend to hog the spotlight, turning brilliance to a glare. It becomes very how can I say, it's too bright, too bright. That's bad. That's like shining directly into your eyes so you can't see. So that's causing discomfort for people. Okay, so extrapolating on the internal aspect, extrapolating from the previous two lines, right, two phrases, just as a sharp tongue can hurt others, perhaps unintentionally, arrogance can cause discomfort when we direct the sharpness of our mental brilliance against others. Okay, so this cautions us not to be so full of ourselves, so arrogant that we use our knowledge or abilities to dazzle others or to show off or to put us down. Okay, so this is a glare that we must dim or harmonize with others. All right, so Tao cultivators now may be quite brilliant themselves, okay, but they do not shine their light into people's eyes. So to dim the glares, to be humble and modest. This is a description of the natural form of humility, a down-to-earth personality, someone who is easy to get along with. All right. Okay. Then the fourth phrase, to mix the dust. Basic meaning is, over time, everything disintegrates. Okay, just turns to dust. Okay. So specific, to live as part of the world, not apart from the world, about being with people, not away from people. Tao cultivators do not isolate themselves from civilization like hermits in the mountains. They participate fully in life, in the community, enjoying the company of others. All right. So it's to be like common or ordinary people. That's another layer of understanding. Okay, it's to be similar to others and not to be deliberately unconventional, not to make a show of being original or unconventional. Okay, so does not mean to mix with the dust. Times to mix with society, with the material world, does not mean to become tainted by worldly defilements. However, it's like a lotus flower growing out of a pond in the mud, but its root still white and untainted by the mud. Okay, so to be beyond the dust. Okay, so let's go to Appendix C. Okay, mixing with dust. Okay, so in the Western tradition, it's, you have the saying, right? To be in the world and yet not of the world. In the Eastern tradition, it's the lotus grows out of mud, yet remains untainted by the mud. So that's another way of saying to renounce the world without leaving the world. That means to not be attached to the world, even though you are in the midst of the world, right? Same idea, okay? To not be attached even in the midst of the world, okay, or of the material realm, okay? Or to enter into dust without getting dusty, okay? So that's what the other meaning is of mixing with dust, okay? That's a little bit more philosophical, okay? Okay, let's go to, let's see, where are we? Bottom of page 4, top of page 4, middle of page 4. Okay. Okay, here you go. All right. Oops, sorry, bottom page. No, page 5, sorry, middle page 5. Okay, and the last phrase of this section 2 is, this is called Mystic Oneness. Okay, so here's the meaning of that term, 玄通. Okay, it means mystic or profound or wondrous oneness or unity. Okay, so 同 literally means, I think we already didn't we have the phrase here up there? 同 means it could means to be like, to be the same as, okay, or to mix, right, to blend. Okay, so it can be a verb or an adjective or a noun. Okay, let's see. Shoot. Okay, where are we? Okay, so the basic meaning of this last phrase is called the state of spiritual oneness with everything. Okay, so that's what basically it means. Okay, it's the spiritual oneness of everything. Okay, all right. Yeah. So tong means here. You can just so you guys know. Okay. All right, here it is. All right. Okay. So it could be a noun, unity, togetherness, oneness, or it can be a verb, okay, or it can be, I think it's an adjective too. Okay. Anyway. All right. Same as. Okay. Similar as. Okay. Okay. So another meaning of the last phrase, like the Tao, the first section above, right? Those who know do not talk, and those who talk do not know. It cannot be fully explained with words. That's what this mystic oneness also implies, right? It cannot be fully explained with words. So how can we reach the state? By following the above 6 principles of mystic oneness. Remember? Okay, section 2, that's where we are in. These are the 6 phrases, okay? These are the 6 phrases. Close the mouth, shut the doors, blunt the sharpness, unravel the knots, dim the glare, mix down. These 6, if you could do all of these to the fullest level, then that's called mystic oneness, all right? So basically that's how do you attain or reach that state of mystic oneness, okay? So here, let's go to Appendix D, sorry. Appendix D, that's the last appendix. Okay, here it is. All right. How do we, quote unquote, attain mystic oneness? Okay, so it's called I call it the 6 principles of mystic oneness. 1, talk less to know more and be wiser. Those who talk do not know. Close the mouth. So now, I got this from Derek Lin. He said, okay, here's 2 words. It's very interesting. This is in English, unfortunately. It's not, in Chinese, but notice the 2 words, silent and listen, right? So, silent and listen, okay? Equal amount of letters. As a matter of fact, they're identical letters, okay? Identical letters, 6 letters each, identical. But both have the same exact letters, but arranged in different order. So if you notice, silent, right, can transform to listen. If you go from the center, from T-E-N, and from listen to silent, you go from S-I-L-T-E-N-T. It's very interesting. So is that, I don't know, synchronicity, coincidence? Interesting. But anyway, okay, so the possible implication means the silent Tao does not mean a complete absence of communication. Yeah, even though Tao is silent, the essence is silent, right? The essence, it's silent. It doesn't talk, right? It's formless. It's intangible. It's metaphysical, right? It's complete, but it does not mean that you isolate yourself from other people. So silent and listen can be 2 aspects of the same coin. All right? Okay? All right. So shut the doors. Shut the doors on distractions and temptations. That's both physical and metaphysical or non-physical. Confucius' 4 taboos, right, of the body. Blunt the sharpness. That's to be gentle and harmonious in our interactions. The key teaching, remember chapter 55, harmony is the foundation. Once established within, leads to harmonious interactions with people, which leads to understanding the constancy of Tao, which then leads to spiritual clarity, aka awakening. And with spiritual awakening or clarity, you'll know when to speak and when not to speak, right? Okay, all right. So number 4, unravel the knots. Resolve complexities by holding on to the Tao. Cut through complexity and contention by holding on to your original intent, original purpose, aspiration. Okay? Dim the glare. Be naturally humble. Okay, with everyone. Not pride, not hubris. No need to blind other people with your brilliance. Remove your ego. Chapter 22, 24 talks a lot about that. Okay, in a different dimension, different perspective. It talks about boasting, self-approval, that type of stuff, right? Those, I think there are four lines, similar. It's basically further further explanation of dim the glare, okay? All right, or aspect, okay? So look at chapter 22, 24. Mix the dust, get actively involved with life and people. Do not be aloof or distant. Be like the lotus flower that grows out of mud, okay? So those are the 6 principles that will, what? Lead one to attain mystic oneness. Okay, so go to bottom half, page 5. We still got a ways to go. Okay. Oh, it's already up. Okay. All right. So further, now this is deeper, to go a little bit deeper. All right. It's similar to these two emerge together, but differ in name. The unity is said to be the mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. That's in last section of chapter 1. All right. Okay. Of Tao Te Ching. The two merge together. What is that? It's the essence and the functions. Okay. All right. The essence manifestations are at one, are merged. Now that's mystery of mysteries, the door to, because why is that unity? Because it's indescribable. That's the problem. Okay. At the essence, it's especially the essence part is indescribable. Okay. All right. And even the application part or the function part, even if you were to describe it, it's still incomplete. Okay. It just means that. So that's why it's door to all wonders. Okay. That means all possibilities, etc., or all manifestations, etc. All right, okay, all right, all right, okay. So the deeper understanding, our Buddha nature, okay, does not have these sharp qualities. The Buddha nature essence, you can say the same thing. Okay, so thus, if we allow these small sharp qualities to bother influence, thus if we allow these small sharp to bother. I should say, to bother and influence us, then, okay, then it is very easy to have an aroused mind and stirred thoughts, which will lead to improper thoughts. So our Buddha nature is not contentious. It does not have complexity or knots. To embrace the oneness of unity through Tao principles, as well as your original purpose, by realizing and being in accordance with our Buddha nature, we become at one with the entire cosmos. Okay, so that's the very high level. That's the, you can say that's the mystic oneness too. That's another way of describing. Okay, so to be to be in common with the material world, right? To mix with the dust, there is no difference. We are all the same. To be grateful and live amiably and satisfactory among each other within society. All right. To enter the realm of the truth, aka Dharma realm or Dharma Dhatu, is called mystic oneness or unity, where this mystic oneness or unity is the integration of the emptiness of the void, the essence, and the existence of the functions. Okay, so that's called mystic oneness or unity. Okay, so just FYI, the first 4 phrases of this section are the same as those in section 2 of chapter 4, where it was referring to the Tao. In chapter 4, it was talking about the Tao. While in this chapter, they refer to the individual, the person, okay? The individual who are wise, who possess or attain mystic oneness. That's the advanced Tao cultivators, whereby applying our Buddha nature to deal with all worldly matters, we can deal with all knotty or troublesome issues satisfactorily. That's so our internal cultivation does not have to be affected by our external environment. Okay, so that's what the mystic oneness is. Okay, so the key is the way to simplify the complexity of life that lead to annoyances and negative emotions is to hold on to the one or the unity of Tao principles and to one's original purpose. So let's go to summary 2. We should be finished with the summary. Okay, here it is. All right. Okay. All right. Oops, sorry. One more. Okay. The 6 principles, all right, okay, of mystic oneness. Talk less to know more and be wiser. So that's the first first two phrases, actually the first three phrases of the chapter. Shut the door on distractions and temptations, both physical and non-physical. That's the fourth phrase. Be gentle and harmonious in your interactions. That's the fifth. Resolve complexities by holding on to the Tao. That's the sixth. And be naturally humble with everyone. That's to dim the glare, right? The other one is to resolve the knots, okay? That's number 4. Number 6 is get actively involved in life and people. That's to mix the dust. So those are the 6 principles. So if we can do this, follow all this, then you can be closer to attaining mystic oneness, okay? All right, let's go to page. All right, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Page 6. We got 3 more pages. Okay. All right. So here's the conclusion. So we're at the last section. It's a long section, but hopefully we can. I divide it up into 2 sections because it gets too long. It's gonna be too long. All right. So thus they cannot obtain this and be closer. Some versions of Taoism you have the word also here, but that's okay. They cannot obtain this and be distant. They cannot obtain this and be benefited. And they cannot obtain this and be harmed. So if you notice, these are, well, this is the first half, okay? This is the first 3. First 4. First 4 of the 6 phrases, okay? Plus the last phrase, okay? But okay, so I broke it up because it's too long, but anyway, okay. So if you notice, at least in these first 4 phrases, okay, these are complementary pairs. In other words, let me highlight here: be closer, okay, and be distant. So they're dualities. One is near, one is far, okay. The second one is benefited. Well, this is a verb, and harmed. Okay, once again, duality. Okay, so just be aware. Okay, because we're gonna get into the metaphysics side pretty soon. Okay, so the basic meaning of the first phrase. Now, this often it's very easy not translated well. I looked at different versions of the English translation. It's right here. It's these 3, the first 3 words. Bukkha. Now that's what this means. Okay, means cannot be attained, cannot be possessed, unattainable. That's a very key. Okay, means not to attain mystic oneness. So it says basically. So the meaning of now. You can examine all 4 or all 6, but if you examine 1, if you know 1 well, you should know the rest. Okay, it's the same. It's parallel, similar. So it just means that they cannot obtain this, which is oneness, the mystic oneness, and be closer and have one of the dualistic extremes. You understand? So mystic oneness is not based on duality, in other words, or extremes. So it's not based on either being closer or being distant. See, these are extreme, right? Dualities, or by being benefited or harmed, and the next one will be value and degraded. But that's next. Okay, so that's what it means. So a lot of people, they don't translate. They say, some people translate says without without the mind, without a possessive mind. I mean, it just means it actually it's close to non-attached, or non-attached, wu wei, the state of non-attachment. That's really closer to that. Okay, all right. Anyway, because the non-attached state is your true natural state, right? Okay, anyway, all right. So basic meaning is of the first phrase of what those they cannot attain this and be closer is one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be another. Now, so this is basic, right? This is basic meaning. So there's another meaning is one who has attached basic, or another, the basic level of interpretation, okay, is one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by people who use close relationships. Most people are susceptible to influence, but those who have attained mystic oneness are immune to such influence. Okay, so that's one layer of meaning. Okay, so another way of saying is those who attain mystic oneness at a higher level, not just spiritually, but also in their interactions with the world. So they are not affected by the typical methods of persuasion, such as close relationships, intimacy, etc., like close friends, partners, etc. So, how do people? Now we're talking about extremes, right? Being close. How do people get close to you? They often use flattery, which is compliments or false compliments, or uh, uh, what do you call that? Not unintended, but uh, compliments with false intent, right? Okay, so that's the same idea. To get closer to someone. So this way, flattery will become a method of influence. But those who are very attain mystic oneness will not be influenced by this method, okay, of influence, because they are unperturbed, right? Okay, or okay. So further understanding is most people, flattery will get you everywhere. But with the higher level spiritual people, such as Tao cultivators, that's not true because they have mastered the ego. There's no ego to take advantage of. So flattery will bounce right off because there's no ego to receive the flattery, okay, or to benefit from the flattery, okay, or yeah. And they see right through the illusory words. They can see through the distorted versions of reality. Okay, all right. So then that's one extreme, being close. The other extreme is to be distant. That's another way. Okay, so one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by people using estrangement. Anybody know what estrangement? It just means being alienated, excluded, or isolated. Okay, all right. Okay, you heard in relationships, estranged relationships, especially between couples who are going through divorce, right? That's what estranged means. I mean, that's one extreme, but okay, it just means you don't get along. You can't, you don't see each other, you don't get on, you don't talk to each other, blah blah blah. Okay, all right. So the opposite of close relationship, right, would be the method of distance or estrangement. Instead of trying to get closer, this method attempts to manipulate the target through alienation, exclusion, and isolation. So that's the cold shoulder. You guys hear the cold shoulder treatment, right? Okay, the cold shoulder tactic. So in social situations, it is about getting with the in crowd, cliques, exclusive club memberships, etc. In the general sense, it's about the lure of high society. All right, okay, so that's what is strange or distant. Okay, so this also fails with high level Dao cultivators or advanced Dao cultivators for the same reasons as the previous method of persuasion, which is close influence and flattery, because they have no need or desire to be included in any type of exclusive circles or elite society. They would rather be with ordinary people. Remember phrase 8 of section 1? It should be section 2, but anyway, okay. Yeah, phrase 8 of section 2. Sorry, section 2. Okay, all right. Okay, to mix with the dust. Okay, all right. Now, let's look at the third phrase, which is they cannot obtain this and be benefit or have, gain benefits. Okay, so it's one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by people bestowing or granting benefits or profits. Another meaning of their phrase is greed is one of the most common element of the profit motive, right? So one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by avarice or greed, okay? All right. We often see people compromise their values, right, for money, such as bribery or graft. So people go out of their way to hoard. Oh, so that's greed. That's greed right there, right? That's a type of greed, right? Because you want to get get money, right? Get more money. Now, the other one is to save money. That's people go out the way to hoard goods or to save a few bucks, right? People line up, at midnight. So at a store, to get those good bargains, I mean, okay, they want to save money. All right. But, that's kind of extreme, right? Okay. Anyway. All right. Okay. All right. So further is greed does not work on those with mystic oneness because they cannot be bought. They are not for sale. It is an issue of integrity, right? They have self-discipline, okay? They are self-sufficient materially and spiritually and cannot be tempted with benefits. Okay, so the fourth phrase is one cannot gain and one cannot obtain and be harmed, okay? So one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by people threatening harm or intimidation, all right? So the opposite method of bestowing benefits or profit would be using intimidation or threats of violence, right? That's the opposite. That's one extreme, right? To the other extreme, right? One is you gain. This means you lose something, right? You lose your life or whatever, right? Okay. All right. So additional meaning is these are fear-based methods of intimidation, which involve the threat of violence or bringing harm to someone. Okay. So that's the extreme. All right. So this method also does not work on those with mystic oneness because they possess that courage that comes naturally from compassion, not from ego, okay? I think we talked about this in chapter, what is it, 50, 54? Is it 50? No, not 54, sorry. I think it's chapter 48, 49, doesn't matter. Okay, it's in the previous chapter. We talked a little bit about that. Okay, about having the courage. The courage comes not from your strength, or physical strength, but from internally, which is naturally from compassion. Okay, all right. Okay. Ooh, I'm trying to remember what it is. Okay, doesn't matter. All right. Okay. Then they also have the foresight to avoid those who intimidate or threaten others with violence. This comes from the clarity of spiritual issues, but also on worldly matters as well. All right. Okay. Now here's the deeper understanding of to obtain. Okay. So this translated means to gain or to obtain. Okay. So it's now on the metaphysical level now. Okay. We're talking about the metaphysical level. So when we can completely integrate into our own enlightened mind within, to be completely merged within, it is called attainment. But without any attachment to forms in our mind, where if there's any attachment, then we will lose the enlightened mind. So that's what that means, to obtain or to gain. Okay, it's to be completely at one within in our enlightened mind, but without any attachment. So it's like the state of what we call wu wei, or non-attachment, non-conditioned non-attachment. Okay, or you can say non-self-conscious. Okay, now at the higher understanding, this is similar. I don't know if you guys remember this, but those of you who read the Diamond Sutra. So this is similar to Buddha asking Shibhuti whether Tathagata, that's him, that's Buddha, had attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, aka unsurpassed supreme enlightenment, or not. Okay, this is in Diamond Sutra. I mean, this is a very, oft discussed point or term in Diamond Sutra. Okay, all right. It's from the Diamond Sutra. I mean, they don't have chapters per se, but it's either sometimes translated as section or chapter. Chapter 17. Okay, it's in chapter 17 towards I think it's the middle, second half, because chapter 17 is one of the longer chapters. It's near the middle. It's close to the middle. It's around the middle part of the chapter. Okay, so he asked. I don't have the exact. Well, he says, if let's see, okay, when the Tathagata was with Dipankara Buddha, did he have any dharma by means of which he attained supreme enlightenment or anuttara samsara? That's what Buddha asked Shibuti. Okay, was there a special, a specific dharma that Dipankara Buddha, another Buddha, previous Buddha, passed on to Siddhartha so that he can gain enlightenment? No, of course not. So that's the notion of the gain, okay, to gain something, okay, to gain. All right. So here, we'll talk a little bit more detail in near the end. Okay. So the implication here, there's the physical aspect, okay, which is not the metaphysical, the physical. That's the first 6 phrases are yin and yang pairs, the section. They're dualistic and about those who have attained the mystic oneness, where they cannot be influenced by people using these 6 methods of persuasion, flattery or false compliments. That's the close relationship. Alienation or isolation, that's the distant, that's number 2. Profit or benefit, that's number 3. 4, injury or harm, number 4. Now the 5th and 6th pair, it's going to be in the next section, okay? Because I broke up as 2. Honor, nobility, value, or 6, disgrace, humiliation, or degraded. So here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. Those who have attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by, false compliments, flattery, exclusion, isolation, benefit, by these extremes, okay? Extreme dualities, these dualities. So that's the basic level of understanding, okay? Now I'll get into the more. This is the physical, you can say physical level. Okay, now here comes the conclusion. This is the last. They cannot obtain this and be valued. Also, they cannot obtain this and be degraded. So that's the last 2 complement pair. Therefore, the conclusion, therefore, they become honored by the world. Okay, so the basic meaning of the first phrase is, one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by people promising fame, honor, or nobility. Now, in this case, the term gui, okay, value, it has a negative context. Okay, usually it's a positive context, but it means the lure of position or prestige, the temptation of high status, etc. Okay, or fame. It is similar to greed, except it is about power or status rather than profits, or fame rather than fortune. Okay, so in this context, even though it's this term, it's generally a positive term. That means it's, hey, yeah, it's it's valuable, all that stuff. But in this case, in this usage context, it's a negative. Okay, so additional is this method. Now, this method of using value or value or prestige or etc. or fame uses reputation, image, and perception, so it can work where the greed for money or bribery fails, right? Because some people, they may not be influenced or tempted by money, by greed, by greed. They're above that, but they could be tempted by fame, status, position, power, etc., right? Okay, so that's this other method. Okay, so now this method does not work on those with mystic oneness because they have no need for external approval or validation because they have no ego. This is also in chapter 22, 24. You have no need for attention or praise because they are humble. 22, 24 also, okay? They do not seek fame, reputation, status, because they are all illusory, okay? All right, that's that. Now the second phrase is they cannot obtain this and be degraded, okay? So jian means, lowly, inexpensive, cheap, worthless. Okay, so basic meaning is, so it's it tends to be negative. So one who has attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by people threatening defamation, disgrace, or humiliation. So this is the opposite tactic. That's why I say yin yang pair, duality. So the first one is talking about what? Temptation of fame, status, power, prestige. This one's the opposite. What's the opposite of that? It's what? Building up your instead of building up your reputation, it's the threat of ruining you and humiliating you, making you infamous, right? So another way is say this method can take the form of blackmail, extortion, right? I won't tell if you, blah, blah, blah. I won't expose you if you do this for me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so another standard second phrase is those with mystic oneness are immune to this tactic also. Why? Because they have lived their lives in accordance with Tao. Okay? And also their conscience is clear. They can look themselves in the mirror. They know themselves and understand what they have done with dignity, honor, integrity, and a clean conscience. So clean conscience. So nothing else matters, right? That's important. Okay. Now we come to the last phrase. Okay. So is given those who have attained mystic oneness cannot be influenced by these 6 tactics. Thus, they become admired, honored, praised, and respected. So in this case, that term valued, gui, is the same term as the first one, as in the first phrase, okay, first term, has a positive context. It means to be admired, honored, praised, and respected, okay? So those who attain mystic oneness describe some of the greatest figures throughout history. It may not be the same term, but they live exactly as that. So, throughout history, we have seen people like that. Okay, so this is very, I don't say superficial, but at least it's external, material, it's physical level. And we could see, look at the past and see people who actually are very close to this mystic oneness. They live, their lives with integrity, right, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, never mind Buddha, Confucius, Lao Tzu, the different patriarchs, those are people within the Tao. But even people outside the Tao, okay, could be very, as long as they're spiritual related, okay, Jesus even, et cetera, okay. All right. So further understanding is they cannot be tempted, distracted, threatened, or forced to go against their ideal. So there's no surprise that they are admired, honored, praised, and respected by the world and future generations who don't hold them up as examples for them. Okay, so that's good. So that's at the very, you can say, relatively superficial level, physical superficial level. Now we're going to go into the metaphysical part. Okay, and this is where it can get a little bit abstract, but that's okay. All right. So there's a deeper understanding to what is this mystic oneness. Okay, it's really, another, to make it simple, it's really the Buddha nature essence, the metaphysical, formless Buddha nature essence. Okay, now, can this, we ask a question, we should ask yourselves, this will show you how well you understand what oneness is. Okay, so can this mystic oneness be attained? Right? I mean, Lao Tzu talk about, right, with the translations, those who attain, right, or cannot obtain this, okay. So if you do the inverse, those who attain and not be valued, okay, you can do the inverse. But anyway, that's the mirror image anyway. Okay, but anyway, so it's the same meaning. But so if you say you have attained it, right? So we should ask ourselves, does anyone have mystic oneness or, attain mystic oneness? So let's say we say, yeah, we attain mystic oneness. If you say that, then you could lose it too. All right. So because what can be attained can be lost. Okay. So this is why those who attain mystic oneness could not say they attained it. Remember, I just talked about the Diamond Sutra. Buddha asked Subhuti if he had attained, well, okay, in this case, it's not mystic. Well, it's the same. It's just parallel. So, in the Tao Te Ching, we don't say supreme enlightenment or Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, but in Buddhism, they use the term Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So Buddha asks. So let me ask you, answer this guy. Can you say that Buddha gained or attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? Right? That's what he was asking Subhuti. Subhuti's response was no. Okay. Anyway, but that's the enlightened view. Okay. But you have to qualify it. Okay. And the reason why you cannot say he attained or Buddha attained Anuttara Samyak, in this case, we say mystic oneness. It's because if you attain something, then that becomes external, and therefore you could also lose it, right? Okay, so that's contrary to the whole notion of oneness. You are integrated, you are at one. Okay, all right, okay. So it's like part of you. You cannot gain it, nor can you lose it, right? Okay, so all right, so that's That's similar to the first phrase of the chapter, which is, those who know do not speak. So those who know that they attained, quote unquote, mystic oneness, they can't talk about it. They can't say, hey, I attained it. They can't say that. Just like Buddha cannot say to Shibuti, hey, Shibuti, I attained, or yeah, I attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. He cannot say that, because to say that means you do not really gain, you do not really have it, because it becomes external. You understand? Okay. So anyway, that this gets a little metaphysical. So, but now on the other hand, here's the inverse, or the flip side, the converse, I guess. But if we say we cannot attain mystic oneness or Anuttara Samsabodhi, then there's no need to pursue it, to cultivate for it, right? Because we never can attain it, right? Never can attain it, right? So it's like this. So here's the problem. This is where our words fail us, or logic, okay, fail us. It actually is this. This is kind of, that's why it gets a little bit nuanced and to maybe abstract. It cannot be attained. That is Anuttara Samyak, or mystic oneness. Okay, cannot be attained, but it also cannot be not attained. It's a double negative. So that means, it can be attained, right? Double negative, cannot and be not, right? Okay, but we can experience. So that's why it's indescribable. So that's why those who know, or those who have mystic oneness, or those who are in the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, like the Buddha, cannot say it. He cannot talk about it. He cannot say it. Understand? Okay, so that's the whole thing. That's why it's so metaphysical. Okay, all right. Higher understanding. So those who know do not speak. So there's no way to speak it or about it. Okay, because there's no way to say it. But if you're forced to say it with words, then it is called, quote, to attain the unattainable, unquote. Okay, so because you have to say it, you have to say something, right? You have to, you're forced to say it. You can't say, oh, you can attain it and you cannot attain it, huh? Well, what does that mean, right? So anyway, so you have to force to say it, so it's called to attain the unattainable. So there is the first phrase: those who know do not speak. That is the most correct. Thus it is called the wordless Dharma teaching. It is the true wordless Dharma. That's where the "thus have I heard" paragraph comes in. That's why it's in the front of every sutra that Buddha spoke. So that's a reminder that everything else, all the sutra teachings, all the teachings of the sutra, or the principles, key points, teaching points, etc., concepts, all is still not perfect. Okay, it's not complete. All right, only the wordless teaching is the closest, or the most accurate to describe the true or the true state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, or in Lao Tzu's case, mystic oneness. Okay, all right. So the implication on the external level is, oh boy, okay. So the previous 6 phrases are yin and yang dualistic pairs, and describe those who have attained mystic and how they are not influenced by the 6 tactics of influence. Okay, so this is external. This is external. So it's I want to say lower level. Okay, so this is that's this. Okay, that's this. So you guys can read this. Those who have quote unquote. Those who quote, those who quote attain the unattainable, unquote, mystic oneness. Okay, so these are the 6 pairs. They're not influenced by the following tactics, right? Being close, being distant, tempted with greed or benefits, or threatened by harm, or threatened with harm, or promise of fame, or threat of defamation. These are all yin and yang, right? Dualities, right? You notice, right? These are okay. So that's external. That's on the external, right? Like the Buddha, like Jesus, they attain the unattainable mystic oneness, right? Okay, so they're not tempted by any of these, right? That's true. I mean, that's a fact. So this is the external aspect. You can say the manifestation, but the function inside, right? Makes sense, right? I mean, yeah, right? That's a fact. I mean, there are also people who are not in the Tao also can be like this too. And that's, in history, you have many great people like that. The only difference is they're not in the Tao, or they have not. So that's at a lower level of this. They have not attained mystic oneness in the sense of the supreme, the unsurpassed, supreme enlightenment peace. I mean, they could be enlightened, but they may not be at the highest level yet. Okay, so that's another way of looking at it. Okay, all right. Okay, so now we're at the conclusion. Okay, so here's the conclusion. Okay, yeah, there are no accurate ways using words to describe our Buddha nature essence. That's the problem. Okay, so now here comes the internal side. Okay, so here it is. Okay, there's no way to attain this intangible, formless, conditionless void or emptiness essence. That is the Buddha nature essence. But we already have it though. See, that's the key. But we already attained it. Yet we cannot abide in it or be attached to it, because one day we will lose it. So you cannot have attachment. All right. You cannot say, I attained it, this Buddha nature essence. It's already there. Okay. So it's not to be attained nor lost. Okay. So that's the key. So we should not have a dualistic mindset understanding. So thus we cannot enter into the mind of gain and loss or duality. Okay. So this is to enter duality. There is neither to attain nor to lose. It cannot be attained and cannot be not attained, but we can experience it, right? It is why do we have thoughts? Why do we have consciousness? Because we have a Buddha nature. Without the Buddha nature, there are no consciousness, there are no thoughts, etc. Okay, feelings, etc. Right. So that's the internal side. Now, then the physical side is it's this, right? We just talked about summary part 3 has it. By speaking less and listening more, to learn more and be wiser. It all begins with an open mind, a willingness to listen, letting go of one's ego, and having humility is the first step toward mystic oneness as follows. Close the mouth, shut the doors, the six sense portals, blunt the sharpness, relinquish the ego, unravel the knots, resolve complexity and contention, dim the glare, be humble and modest, and mix the dust, be immersed within the material. These are the 6 principles of mystic oneness, where those who attained it cannot be influenced by being closer, by being distant, by benefit, by harm, by honor, or by disgrace. All right, so this is that physical, external, right? Now comes the metaphysical side. Okay, the metaphysical is after attainment, okay, and without being close, and without being distant, and without benefit or gain, without harm or loss, and without honor or valued, or without disgrace or degraded. That's the state of, okay, of mystic oneness, cannot be attained by any duality. This is, okay, this is what? The metaphysical Tao of Tao, okay? That is unattainable and not unattainable, okay? It's neither extreme, right? But which we can experience. So this is called to, quote, attain the unattainable, unquote. So this is the complete, bright, or non-obscure spiritual void within the Buddha nature essence, okay? The spiritual oneness with everything. Okay, we encompass the cosmos, everything, right? That's how great our Buddha nature essence is. Okay, it's like to embrace the one. Okay, attain oneness. That's in chapter 39. Okay, so this is our true birthless and vanishingless Buddha nature essence. This is the true practice of Tao. This is the world's most honored Tao. Okay, all right. I finished. I'm sorry I ran a little bit over. I'd like to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters. And if I said anything wrong or incorrect, I ask for the Buddhas and saints and Lao Tzu's forgiveness and guidance. Thank you.